Welcome into an episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. Folks, you know the drill. It is a Farabaugh Friday on the Steelers Afternoon Drive. No Alan Saunders, which means my man, Nick Farabaugh, joining me on the show. How we doing, pal?
How you doing, man? Are we doing well today? It's a beautiful Friday in the Berg. It
Yeah,
really is.
I'm in my dungeon right now, so I can't really tell that, but
I,
yeah,
I
I'm
do
sure it
have
is.
windows right there, and I see the sunlight coming through, so
Okay.
it is beautiful. One thing I will say is, compared to last week when I was on this show, I have significantly tanned due to
Mm,
being out in the sun every day at OTAs. So that's cool. I'm
I can't
also
say the
wearing a
same.
long sleeve shirt because it's cold down here where I'm at right now. So
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I cannot imagine. Although in the morning, the last couple of days, it has been in the 50s. Like when we've gotten up, it just progressively jumps like 25 degrees throughout the day, which is,
yes.
Western PA.
Yeah, I
But
went shopping earlier today and I was like, it's like a nice cozy,
mhm.
solid number. And now I think it's probably I think it was like 65. Now it's probably like 10 degrees warmer. I think it's probably like 75, 77, something around there at this point. So we've had some beautiful weather though. Like if you watch our practice reports, man, like you'll just
Yeah,
see like
yeah.
blue skies. It's
The
gorgeous so
shades.
far. Compared to April, man, April sucked. So we
Yeah,
needed it.
it did. All right, that's enough for meteorology afternoon drive. Before we dive into anything, though, I do want to give another shout out. And honestly, I like people that know me know how much content that I consume Steelers wise. And I try to like follow along with what everybody's doing. I try to like check out as many YouTube videos or written work from people that are like smaller content creators. My guy Jake Wade, Steeler Wade Show, made it a point like the last 2 minutes of an episode that he made to show off his leg tattoos because I just got my shin piece done not too long ago. Was talk about it on here. So like he gave me like a full, like he had his camera like real zoomed out and he's like looking at his legs, showing off his ink. So I appreciate that. And I just want to let all the content creators know I see you. I see what you're doing. I appreciate the grind as somebody that is in the game myself. Nick, speaking of the grind, Najee Harris has been on the grind of his own this offseason. I can tell in the videos that he's obviously like he looks significantly different to me physically. Do you feel the same way seeing him at OTAs this year? Like he looks trimmed down.
Yeah, he's a little less hefty, I guess. I do think he's a little trimmer. I don't think it's going to necessarily result in like a ton of like 60-yard touchdowns all of a sudden. Like he's not going to
Mhm.
turn into
Sure.
this burning speedster, but I think he's quicker, and I think that's something that's going to actually really matter in the Arthur Smith offense. Because like, how many times do we talk about the wide zone, mid zone stuff that they run with
Mm.
all those outside? So it's a one cut get vertical thing. I think he can really excel with a little bit more chop in his step, and I think he's got it. It's not going to like be a long speed thing. It's going to be a short area quickness thing. I think we can see like a lot of him get to the second level and drag a guy 10 yards, get 20, 15, 20, 25 yards and just rip off those chunks. Like that's where he's going to make hay. Jaylen Warren can honestly hit the home runs, but like, dude, he looks better. He looks quicker in the short areas. Yesterday, they were doing a drill. It posted on X, and Eddie Faulkner actually commented on it. It was really cool about they were doing a duo drill, and you
No.
saw when Najee Harris just cut, it just looked a little quicker, looks a little more fluid. He gets through short areas a little better. I always thought for his size he was real quick, but now that he's probably, I don't know, 7 pounds lighter, I think you see like just a little bit more of that. I think that's a big thing for him. When you're talking about efficiency, not only was it offensive line play, but I think if he had been just a little quicker to maybe get through some of the holes, he could have squeezed out a few extra yards. So I really do think, he's going to be. Oh yeah, here it is. Here it
Is
is.
this it right here? All right, yeah, we can
Yes.
play it real quick to see
So
what we're talking about.
you see how he just like has like a just quick cut. You're playing this. Watch Jaylen Warren. Like watch how quick Jaylen Warren is. He's going to do a hole cut. Boom. Like he's just got great lateral agility. Najee just gets vertical right away. I mean, this is
Yeah.
last year. I don't know if he has the stop start right there where he, hits the back leg on the left and just goes right there to the right. That
Mm.
would essentially be, a one read that probably would be predominantly to the left, and he just cut it right back to the right behind the right guard center. So those lateral agility drills, man, like it pops. I think he's a little quicker than he was. And Jaylen Warren's always been quick and always been great, with the burst short area, running hard, which is why he's always been a very efficient back. I think Najee has a chance to really tap into that too this year.
Man, yeah. I mean, I was just say like we've heard about him saying like he's in the best shape. You hear that every time though. This time of year, like I'm in the best shape of my life, and people talk about him being trimmed down, but like to actually see it put on display, I feel like is a different thing. So very encouraged by what we're seeing in these clips. But again, this is OTAs. Once they put the pads on, I'm excited to see how that translates to
Yeah.
that part of the
That's the
season.
one thing, right? How does he look with the pads on? We haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
But just in short so far, I do think he looks a little quicker laterally, which I think is going to be big for him to get through those short areas, especially on those wide zone, mid zone runs. I just think that's a huge part of, if you're going to run wide zone, you better be quick and be able to hit the hole. Ideally, you have elite burst and speed, but if you don't,
Mhm.
you better have that quickness to get vertical. And Najee can, like, if they give him space and they get him to the second level. Like he can easily shed tackles from linebackers and safeties. We saw that last year. How many times, during the second half of the season, where on those pulling runs where he got to the second level, did he just drag guys for 5, 6, 7 yards in the second level? He can do that. So when you get him one on one in the hole, he can make some noise happen, man. There's no doubt about that.
I want to ask you something that we talked about a couple days ago on here. Um, as a receiver, Jaylen talked about his excitement for what the running backs could be as receivers in this offense, but we haven't seen it. Like Najee caught 74 balls his first year, and we've seen that decline, obviously, as like Jaylen Warren's come into the fold. Is that something that maybe we could see come back this year? Because you also would like for that to be less of a tell for defenses too. Like if Najee's on the field, you want him to be able to add that element. If Jaylen's on the field, you want him to be able to run between the tackles and vice versa. So, could we see them maybe mix it up more and have the backs do things that are a little bit different than it has been the
Sure.
last couple seasons?
Sure, we could. Here's why we could see that. The reason we can see that happening is because the route tree is more expansive. I don't know how many times last year I was just asking them to run a Texas route once on linebackers that were cheating up on the running back in the flat. Like, give them something. That's in the offense. Wheel routes. Run them the seam. Split them out. There's just so many different usage points for running backs in this
Mhm.
offense. So, like, yes, I do think we have a chance to see this group get more. I don't want to say more receptions because they were targeted a lot last year. It was just screens, swings,
Yeah.
things near the line of scrimmage. They'll get that in because Russ has, I think, the highest checkdown rate in the NFL in the past 2 years. So that will be something
Mhm.
with Russ, a quarterback. But I think they're going to be able to run different routes as well, get more depth of target. So I do think we could see that. And Najee Harris has just kind of he kind of disappeared from the pass game after his rookie season when he was so spectacular, being a check down valve for Ben Roethlisberger. So I think we need to see that. I think that's where Najee kind of wins. Again, if you get him in space against a linebacker, he can make him miss. Like he can force it. He's physical. You get him on a safety, they're probably not bringing him down. You get him against a slot corner, they're probably not bringing him down. That's one of the advantages of having a dude this big that moves like that. So I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice not to get Najee Harris touches in space like that.
Yeah, I hope that because even like we were talking with Allen, and it's like you would see them send the running back out wide, or they would start out wide, but then they'd motion them in, and it just ends up being like a set that you would see
Yep.
anyway. Like I just want to see them do different stuff this year, so very hopeful for what that could look like. Nick, of course, we went to X to ask some questions. We got a lot of good stuff here, but you wanted to talk about a player, and this is before you knew that we got asked a question about them. We got asked a question about said player, so we're going to start there with Keanu Benton. Captain Hindsight says, do you guys think Benton will take more snaps in relief of Hayward and Larry O this year, in addition to also getting snaps at nose tackle?
I did want to talk about Keanu Benton. He's like the player I think I'm most excited to see this
Mm,
year in terms of the breakout. Because dude, this guy's tape last year was dynamic. I mean, he has about two or three go-to moves, but he sounds like he's expanded them a little bit. He's looks stronger. His frame's a little bit more built out. He's always been explosive and built like the Hulk. The actual physical traits, the build have been elite from day one. I mean,
mhm.
he came into rookie camp last year and it was just built like a absolute like
Yeah.
fridge. I'm like, this guy looks like the prototypical defensive lineman in a modern Steelers defensive lineman in their scheme for this age. Like that's what he looks like. And I think, he played a lot of nose last year, but I think the kind of bigger build, the more experience, the more pass rush moves he might have, give him a lot of upside to work out to 4-eye and 3-tech and become a real big time pass rusher from there. That was the question coming out of Wisconsin was, could he go out to 3-tech and become a real penetrating pass rushing 3-tech? I think he showed last year he could. So,
Yeah.
he's a really fun player if you really break it down. I'm a big fan of Keanu Benton's game. I think the stats undersold how good he was last year too. And
I agree.
so can he play more snaps, with Cam Hayward and Larry Ogunjobi being question marks with Cam's contract and Larry just having a down year last year? I think absolutely. Armon Watts isn't there to be the backup, penetrating
Mhm.
pass rusher. So I think most of that falls onto Benton's lap. And I really think he's going to be a guy that gets a lot more playing time. He should at least play the second most snaps on the defense, if not the most snaps. I think he has a chance to really become a breakout star. I'm that high on Keanu Benton.
Yeah, I mean, I always think when I think of Keanu Benton, the first thing I think about is the club swim move, but that he has. I mean, that sack that he had against the Raiders was nasty. I'm excited to see if he does, like you're talking about, like can diversify his bag though. I mean, the moves that he has are already good, but if he can expand upon that, and I'm sure that he has and is continuing to do so, yeah, I'm in agreement. Like out of these year two guys, Derek asked Tyler and I, we were putting out for questions for around the 412 yesterday, what year two player we're most excited about. And it's like so hard to pick one. Like, you got Joey Porter Jr. because obviously super important for Broderick to have a great year over at left tackle, basically a second rookie year going back to left tackle, assuming that's the case. And then you got Keanu Benton, who is probably, I mean, right now, Nick, I like, obviously in the short term, he's very important, but long term, I think you could argue he's right now the only long term piece that they have on the defensive line.
Yeah, I don't think they have a guaranteed slam dunk long term piece beside him um, at all. I mean, he could be here for 10 years if he's good enough, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, he should factor into their plans. He had a great rookie season. I wish, I think he was closer to getting more sacks. I think the biggest thing for him was finishing. Like I thought he had some missed
Mhm.
tackles on sacks, just somewhere he didn't widen, kind of slant that bend enough. And he has flexibility, so I know he can do it. Finishing is going to be a big thing. Like that was big for Alex Highsmith early in his career too. Remember where
I
he
was
would,
just gonna say, dude.
yep,
I was just say I was just say Highsmith, and then even further back, and this isn't as a pass rusher, but just thinking of the conversation surrounding him, Ryan Shazier early in his career, right,
mhm,
where it was always like, dude, he's always around, he's just not finishing the plays. I was gonna say
yeah.
the exact same thing about Highsmith
I
too.
think that's the big thing. Becoming a better finisher, running that hoop a little bit on the inside, get really making those tackles. I mean, listen, it's just easier in college to make sacks. Sometimes you beat guys cleanly. In the NFL, a lot of interior sacks aren't you just disposing of the guard and smashing a quarterback. Sometimes it's you're still engaged and you have to one arm wrap that guy up and bring him down. And I think,
Mhm.
sometimes that is really where flexibility on the interior really goes underrated. I think Keanu Benton has it. I just think he needs to finish better. I thought he had some very clean wins last year. A lot of them came in the run game. But as a pass rusher, they flashed too. He's just got the frame to be a very, very, very fearsome defensive tackle in this league. And
Mhm.
I think he is the one that could. I love Joey Porter Jr. I love Broderick Jones. I think Nick Herbert's got a great future.
Yeah.
Darnell Washington has some potential too. I think Benton has the potential to really raise his stock this year. I really do. I think Porter's stock's already pretty high with what
Yeah.
he did last year. Broderick probably has a lot of room to up his stock too, but I'm not sure anyone's going to take it higher this year than Benton. I really think, like, if you ask me who the breakout star of the team is going to be this year, I would answer him. I really do think it's going to be him.
Yeah. Honestly, probably would say the same. So, love that. Let's stick on the defensive side here. Nikki Cold Cuts says, "Do you guys think the addition of Deshon Elliott will allow Minka to get back to making more game-changing plays? Like this has been a thing for a couple of seasons, right? I don't think it's just Deshon Elliott. I think you could even look beyond like the defensive backs, like the addition of Patrick Queen at the second level could do a lot of things that we're talking about. Like really, the idea that we're talking about here is just getting Minka out of the box, right, and letting him play more free and get back to being himself. But this has been a conversation I feel like for a couple seasons. Is 2024, because of the additions they made, finally the year that Minka can be Minka again?
It's interesting, because Minka, I think, is actually an elite box safety if you let him. I thought he was great with what he did
Yeah.
last year. I thought he played extremely well. I know um, the the stats specifically, ball hawking stats weren't as good, but he was making plays. He was an excellent blitzer, sure tackler, great run fits. I just don't think that's where he's best. I think he could be elite there. I really do. I just think he's a better free safety. I think free safeties that roam around are more
Mhm.
valuable. And like,
Right.
yeah, you can have him in the box and in the slot from time to time, but I don't want him there all the time. I think they had to. They didn't really have a surefire answer in the slot last year.
Mhm.
Strong safety became an issue too. Keanu was not playing well. And Casey basically was forced to play only free. So Deshon Elliott's a box slot guy that they can blitz, they can use on early downs there. Use him to kind of take away some run lanes. I think he could be a really good piece there. You can get Casey kind of moving around more now, and so I think you can get Minka Fitzpatrick in free safety roles as a robber. You could move him around like every snap. I want the quarterback to have to think about where 39 shows up. That's what I would want to do. So I think
Mhm.
Deshon Elliott, I talked about this when they signed him. When I really thought it was getting that type of versatility that you got with Terrell Edmonds. Like even
Mhm.
if you had questions about Terrell Edmonds, and I think that's fair, as a question. But what really Deshon Elliott brings to the table is he can play anywhere. He's interchangeable. He can play back at free safety. He can play it up in the box. He's done some slot stuff as an overhang. So he can play all over the field. And that's what you want when you want to disguise things, make things harder. So you look at his snaps last year, Deshon Elliott's free safety 574, strong safety 236, slot 97. So he is a versatile player that can play all over the field. And that's, I think, what they really wanted.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's in. We talked a lot about like the slot corner stuff, right? I almost wonder though, like nickel, dime, whatever. I think they still want to do this three safety thing, man. Like they haven't really been able to for the last couple of seasons because you go back 2 seasons ago, and it was DeMonte KZ who got hurt in the preseason, and then didn't debut with the team until like week 9. Came back against the Saints, and they finally had him, Edmonds, and Minka. Then obviously Edmonds goes. They have KZ. They bring in Keanu Neal. But between KZ, Neal, Minka's injuries, how often did they have all three healthy last year? Like they just haven't had. I still think that they want this to be a large part of what they do is having Minka, KZ, and now Deshon Elliott all on the field together.
Yeah, I think three safety sets are going to be very potent. Um, Elliott didn't test great coming out of college, but I think the game speed is faster than his test speed. Um, GPS data seems to think that Sean Elliott's decently fast. Like he's a solid athlete, even though he
Mhm.
tested as probably a below average one. So he's a better athlete on the field than he tested. So they got more athletic there. I think that's another thing where
Mhm.
Edmonds was a very athletic player. He could cover ground. So I think Elliott and Minka are going to be a nice kind of contrast to Casey, who Casey on the back end of his career isn't the athlete he used to be after some of the injuries he suffered. But he's still a very instinctual player that can be really solid. I thought Casey, I know he didn't have a good year last year. I thought he got a little overexposed with some of the rules he had. I thought, the year before that, when he was the third safety and was asked to do
Mhm.
kind of more limited things, I thought he really flashed. And I think it kind of opens up his ability to be more of a ball hawk. So I think, Casey can get an uptick by playing a little less. I think Elliott, what he did in Baltimore and what he did in Miami, good player. Can he stay healthy? I think that's the big question with
Mhm.
all three of these guys. You talk about the three safety set. Elliott's had injury issues. Minka was hurt a lot last year with the hamstring and the knee. And Casey's been hurt a lot over his career. Casey was obviously not hurt last year, but before that, the fractured. for him. He has a few serious injuries on his resume, so it's going to be about can he stay healthy. And then your fourth, I mean, you feel good about Trent Thompson as the fourth, but he's dealing with a neck thing right now. So,
Yeah.
so what's the safety injury situation going to be like? It could be a really deep room. I like Trenton Thompson too. If one of those guys goes down, I think he could slide in there as that third safety pretty easily. And then I guess behind that, you've guys like what do they think of Ryan Watts? And different guys like that. It's a solid safety room. You have Miles Killebrew in there as well, of course, as your special teams demon. But we'll kind of see where this whole thing goes. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. But I think Elliott was added for the sole purpose of helping Minka become Minka again. I think that's a huge part of this.
Do you think the other thing that I said there with the linebackers, Patrick Queen, and we'll see if Peyton Wilson, what his role looks like. Obviously, it could be a lot more significant depending on what happens with Cole Holcomb, obviously, before the season starts. But you think with guys like that, like getting more athletic at the second level, could that also play a role for what they're able to do on the back end of things with Minka?
Sure. They're more athletic. They have better zone droppers this year at that level. Peyton Wilson's a freak athlete. There's no doubt about that. And what he can do in coverage will give them a lot of different looks. I think that Minka can then I think part of why Minka had to play in the box and be this blitzer was to help accentuate the weaknesses in run defense. Because Cam Hayward went out, and then Cole Holcomb got hurt, and then Quan got hurt, and Cam wasn't 100% still, and all these injuries just racked up, and the run defense started to really suffer there in that middle portion of the season. So Minka was one of the ways they tried to kind of plug that in. Then he got hurt, of course, and everything, just like what's going on. But I think that was part of it. So, I don't think they'll have to do that as much anymore. They have such kind of exotic blitzes that they could bring out. This is a great blitzing linebacker group. Elandon Roberts is a great blitzer. Peyton Wilson was a legitimately elite blitzer off the edge when they let him at NC State go.
Yeah.
And Patrick Queen's a great blitzer on top of that. So they can do a lot of blitzes and sneak Minka behind there and do a lot of different things there where you're kind of rotating coverages and a lot of different things that they can do. So, yeah, I think, that linebacking core, the more athletic, the more diverse it is, definitely allows them to move Minka around and have him do more to really uplift this defense. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Nick, we're going to ask questions about the receivers, but I will say I feel like these are a little bit different than the ones we've answered in the past because Steelers Network kind of parlayed this into a George Pickens conversation, which I thought was interesting. So if the Steelers traded for somebody like Courtland Sutton, say, end up giving him the new money that he's looking for in a new deal, does that make a George Pickens extension a little less likely next summer as he enters year 3?
Depends on how hefty that is. If it's an Ayuk $30+ million, probably. I mean, listen, 2025 storyline, I can already predict right now, at this time next year is going to be about paying George Pickens. It's the obvious one, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be about him, TJ and other guys. But he's going to be a huge part of that. If you paid Brandon Ayuk, $30 million, which I think he's going to ask for, I think the AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jaylen Waddle extensions have given him credence to ask 30 mil or more. I think they have given him credence to do that. So if you offer him that, probably. If Courtland Sutton's deal, reportedly Jeremy Fowler said Courtland Sutton wants 15 to 16 per year for 2 years. I don't think that precludes anything from George.
Oh.
That's not crazy because the deal will end in 25 too. George actually won't get the uptick until after 25 anyways at that point because he'll still have one more year on his rookie deal. So if that is the way it goes, I don't think so. But if you're talking, Brandon Ayuk, you signed the guy to like a 5-year deal, 30 a year, I think that is tougher. But if you bring in, Courtland Sutton for 2 years and maybe 2 years, 32, I don't think that kills anything there. So it depends on the level of receiver they have. DK Metcalf's contract doesn't really preclude them from doing anything with George either. If you're talking about that, I think it's more, Ayuk that would give them trouble. Even Deebo Samuel's contract, I think they could work around if they got him in the building. I think they would be fine with that contract too. I really think the one scenario where I think George's extension becomes noticeably harder to fit in would be Ayuk.
Yeah.
I feel like if they signed Ayuk for say a 4 or 5 year deal, Pickens would then become a pretty clear franchise tag candidate. I think that would be Pretty obvious. Would play very similarly to how the Bengals are right now, where you have Chase and
Yeah.
Higgins coming up. Chase is obviously going to be the one to get the big deal, and Higgins is right now just kind of in franchise tag.
Yeah, you're keeping him as long
Landing.
as you have his rights, and then know he's
Yep.
gonna have a long-term future elsewhere. Yeah, that's a good point. I like that comparison. And I don't know. I mean, this has entered my mind, of course. Like, could George's future be impacted by them acquiring another receiver? Yes, but I think, like you said, it's because of Brandon Ayuk. Like, I don't know who else is in that conversation.
Yeah, I don't really think another guy, unless we're talking, just out of left field,
Yeah.
someone we don't even think is on the market, comes in, at a level of, Ayuk or someone like that. I don't know. Someone that's elite and that will require a very big contract over multiple years that would eat
Mhm.
to George's deal. I think that's when it gets into murkier territory. And the reason I say that is they have a ton of cap space next year. There's no doubt, but
Sure.
that cap space is going to be eaten up very quickly because
They don't have a lot
as
of
of right
players on
now,
the roster.
yeah, they need a guard, they need a tight end, they need a running back, blah 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 blah. Corner is going to be a need. I mean, it's going to D line if Cam walks. I mean, it's going to be
Quarterback.
quarterback. Yeah, like that quarterback's the wild goose chase right here. You're not going to want
Mhm.
to, go into an offseason saying we have all this cap space, but don't have an answer quarterback and not say a significant chunk of that won't go to a quarterback. I'm just like
Mhm.
it's been floated out there like Dak hits free agency. I mean, it's possible. You can't rule anything out in the NFL. I've seen too much stuff happen in the NFL. I never thought I'd see Russell Wilson and Justin Fields on the team. I never expected
Right.
that. So I'm never gonna rule anything out anymore. So like quarterback is a significant thing, or Fields or Wilson has a really good year this year. I mean, they're gonna get paid. So it's gonna be different kind of measures there. But yeah, I do not think most of the receiver trades that have been mocked up really impact GP's long-term standing. I think
Mhm.
Ayuk is the one that does more so, but I think there is a way you can make an Ayuk GP both getting deals work too. It just depends on what the quarterback situation would be.
Sure. Yeah, the Sutton thing's interesting too, just because when we talked on here, just based off when you're talking about receivers looking for new deals, we thought that number was gonna start with a two, like 20-ish
Yeah.
million. Like 15 to 16, man. I mean, on a short term, like that's much more palatable. I can definitely get on board with that.
I can do that. He's worth 2 for 32 if that's what he wants. I'd give him that. Right now he's at 13 mil. If he only wants a 3 mil raise per year, I think that's not bad at all. I think
Yeah.
I think he's played well enough to earn that salary. I mean, listen, that would be a lesser contract than what they paid Deontay Johnson 2 years ago. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
nothing compared to what. Indeed, I think we both will agree if Deontay Johnson plays like Deontay Johnson will, his figure next year will start with the 2 that he gets.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
um, really, I mean, you're asking me to get essentially a very cheap wide receiver 2 that has been a consistent wide receiver 2 in production, as the 1 because Courtland Sutton has been the 1 over there in Denver, but as a
Mhm.
2 now, if he comes over to Pittsburgh, should at least be able to keep that level of production. It's worth it. Yeah,
Yeah.
if
I mean,
he
and of course, we don't know what the guarantees would be on that out of the 32 million.
yeah, we
Uh,
don't know that, but
yeah.
obviously, just on paper, 2 years, 16 a
Right.
year for 32 does not seem
Mm-mm.
overly crazy for him.
And Nick, we'll go to Aiden here for the last question, and this is receiver related too. But I will say I like this because it's totally different. So he says, assuming Van and CA3 Calvin Austin third will make the team. So who's most likely to step up if you had to pick between Quez Watkins, Scotty Miller, Marquez Callaway, Denzel Mims? I like this because we're talking about bottom of the depth chart receivers here. One of those guys, as of right now at least, looking without a wide receiver addition, very much likely to make this roster. Who do you think out of that group is the one that you would pick to step up?
It depends on what they would prioritize at that point. So you're telling me, Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, George Pickens, and Roman Wilson are probably your top 4
Those are the
in
four.
that
Yeah.
scenario. So I only think they're gonna keep 5. I don't think they're gonna keep
I
6.
agree. Mhm.
So with the 5, do you prioritize special teams? If you
Mm,
prioritize special teams, I think you lean Callaway. I think he's the true special teamer of that group. Um, And Watkins has, punt return and kick return abilities, but I think kick return is pretty obviously going to be Cordero Patterson, and punt return will probably be Calvin Austin again in that scenario. So doesn't matter as much. As a receiver, I'm going out of that group, Quez Watkins. I think he's the one that I'd pick. Just through seeing 2 weeks of OTAs, out of those four, he's been by far the best. He's actually got, he's got elite speed. He's got a little bit more nuance in his game. He catches, he's made some tough grabs outside his frame that have impressed me too. So I think he's a guy that would step up. Miller hasn't done a ton. Mims, I like Denzel Mims kind of Baylor too, but I
Same.
think he
Yeah.
kind of is what he is.
I was just say it's interesting because you could go through all these guys and find a way. Like Scotty Miller, obviously the familiarity with Arthur Smith was with him last year. Mims has probably the highest pedigree out of this group. Callaway, like you said, adds the special teams value. And then Quez Watkins has probably looked the best so far. So like you could
Yeah,
find something with all these guys to try to make the case.
I agree. I'll
But
throw out a name that you didn't mention that I think is going to be in that conversation if this is how it works out. I think Des Fitzpatrick has a say in this.
okay.
Was on the roster at a point last year, and he is a great special teamer. He is a gunner, can work on kick coverage, can work on all coverage units, works on punt block. So he works on all different types of units and has also flashed a bit as a receiver. Last year he had a good camp. This OTAs, he's been decent. He's a big outside receiver too, if that's what they wanted with that fifth guy. So I think he would have a say. Familiarity's sake, special teams value, he would be your Miles Boykin this year if that's how that went. So I think he would have a say in this room as well. With how we kind of break it out. I think he is a sleeper not enough people are talking about. I'm not even
Yeah.
saying like that's a good thing. Like I'm not even sure if Dez is, a guy that is naturally worth that fifth wide receiver spot. He was on the practice squad last year, and I like him kind of as that practice squad elevation guy that could be your special teamer and bring that value more than I like him as the fifth wide receiver. But they don't make a move. I think he's a legit candidate for wide receiver 5. I really do.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I feel like he has kind of gotten lost in the shuffle here. Like it's weird because it's not like a good receiving group, but there's just so many guys on the bottom of that depth chart that like are all kind of like you feel like interchangeable. So somebody's gonna have to step up. So who did you end up saying was your pick? Marquez Callaway because of the special teams? If you had to pick somebody, or
if we're gonna talk strictly offensive receiver, it's gonna be Quez Watkins. If we're looking for an all around guy, I think I actually might go Dez.
okay, all right.
That's my guess. I think people are really underselling Dez's ability to make the roster with how it's currently constructed. But if we're just talking about who's the best receiver, the guy that you trust the most as a wide receiver, it's Quez Watkins. And they have been
I think
working Quez
that's
Watkins on special teams units, so clearly they are at least evaluating that. So it's possible that he's just the gunner and does everything.
I just envision a world where one of these guys, because they're all like experienced too, or they're gonna absolutely light it up in the preseason against like teams' third stringers while they're playing with like Justin Fields or Kyle Allen. Like they're just gonna blow up in the second half of these preseason games. But I'll say Quez Watkins here out of this group.
Yeah, I think that's the clear one to me. Right now, just from what I've seen through 2 weeks, I think it's him. As the best
But to
receiver.
your point, and I agree, if we're sticking with 5 receivers here, when we have that top 4 that we've already talked about, and I don't know that it's like that clear where like, actually, that's a good question. I'll ask you this first. Do you feel like Calvin Austin's roster spot is pretty safe at this point or no?
I do. I think
Okay.
he's I it's not necessarily because like he's been, playing above the other guys. It's just he's been playing better than them. He has a unique skill set that I don't think the other guys have.
Mhm.
I know that a lot of people, talk about the overlap of speed and slot and punt return ability, with him, Quez Watkins, and Scotty Miller. I think he has route running prowess the other two don't have. I think he's got probably a higher upside than the other two as well. So, this could be like a season where Calvin Austin legitimately ends up with like 34 catches for like 400 yards, something like that, where he just makes a ton of deep catches.
Mhm.
I think he's legitimately taken a step in his game. He's been separating a lot more consistently this year than he was last year in training camp or in OTA. So I think he is going to be safe, mainly because I just think he's going to be better than the rest of them.
Okay. So okay. So like I said, then you kind of block off that top 4 that we're talking about here.
Yep.
And you got one spot left. And if they add a receiver from the outside that's not currently on the roster, none of the guys we just mentioned may actually make the 53. Now you could have obviously some practice squad guys, some opportunity there, but everybody that we just talked about could be pushed off the roster if this team adds just one receiver.
Yeah, I think that's something. And hey, listen, man, like that 5th spot could be someone, they like that gets cut off another wide receiver loaded roster. We talk about the Texans. That could be John Mechie, for all we know. Like,
Dude, they have like 10 receivers on the roster right now. I mean, it is ridiculous. And
So
like
that-
eight of them jump off to me as like these guys should be NFL receivers.
I agree. And so, that 5th guy can be someone from another team too that floats around. So we'll kind of see how that all plays out. But right now, if I had to say, I think Quez Watkins is the best receiver of the group. If they're leaning more special team, I think I'm probably going Dez. But I'm interested to actually see how Quez Watkins looks in preseason and training camp, all the special team side of things, because he hasn't done a lot of gunner work. But they're clearly trying to get him to do gunner work. So we'll see what kind of works there.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Good stuff. Nick, tell people they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Farabaugh FB. Make sure to read stuff at steelersnow.com. Find me on the YouTube channel. I think I got this down by now, Smitty. You like, comment, subscribe, and you turn on that notification bell to get more videos like this.
There you go. If you hit that notification bell, you'll know when a new video is posted. You don't even have to like be guessing like, oh, I wonder if a new episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive or a new practice report or a new Sights and Sounds has been uploaded. You will get the notification when a new video is posted. And 60% of the people that watch the content on the channel currently are not subscribed, Nick. Why is that? It's totally free to do. Just hit the subscribe button. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, because great content's coming. It's coming all summer. It's coming during the season. It's coming. So subscribe, and we'll take you on. We'll keep you updated on the Steelers always. So
there we go. And if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, just search us up, Steelers Afternoon Drive. You will find us right there. Once you do, leave us a 5-star review, subscribe over there as well, whatever your favorite listening platform is. You can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Nick Farabaugh and myself, thanks for jumping in and taking another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.